In less than 10 minutes, you will know how to pick the ideal bottle of French wine. Let's go for it. Wines in France and basically everywhere in the world follow the same exact rule. The more location you see on the bottle, the better the wine is. Like, if the grapes for the wine are picked in one single vineyard, probably the quality of the wine will be top-notch. And vice versa, if on the label we have only a very vast region without a particular place, it probably means that the wine inside is cheap and not so good, in most cases. Not often. There is one notable exception in France, and we'll get back to it in a couple of minutes. The most basic level French wines available in any supermarket are labeled Vin de France or wine from France. It is the basic wine, the grapes for which are harvested somewhere in France. Normally, a bottle of this wine costs less than $10 or euros, and the wine inside is not the best wine in the world. It is still safe to drink, it is fine for cooking, but except for that, it is nothing interesting actually. I don't buy these wines because in the same price category there are better French wines, which are also always available in any supermarket or wine shop. The step up from these wines is wines with protected geographical indication. These are labeled IGP, Indication Géographique Protégée in French, and now we are going down on the territory where the grapes can be grown. Like in Vin de France, we had all the territory of the country, and now we have only one region like PDO in the south of France or Pays of the Loire Valley, which also, frankly speaking, are huge territories. And there are a lot of wines in the same price category of around 10 euros under protected geographical indication. But in this case, we get more quality because each region has its own regulations for wine production. PGI wines in France unite several smaller regions normally, like Vin de Pays de l'Atlantique unites Bordeaux and Cognac region. Obviously not cognac like the spirit, but wine from this region. So generally, protected geographical indication wines in France produce better quality wines than labeled simply wine from France. But still, at this level, you don't have a lot of this location thing, because these are still very big territories. Bordeaux itself produces more wine than the whole Australia, the whole continent. So if the grapes are sourced somewhere in Bordeaux, it doesn't mean that these should be top quality. But Vin de Pays de l'Atlantique include the whole Bordeaux region and Cognac region. So you understand that the territory where the grapes can be grown is enormous. There is only one exception to this rule, and the name of this exception is wines from the southern France. It is the only regional appellation which makes stunning wines by blending different grapes cultivated in different areas. Like southern France, the region called southern France is still huge. It occupies the area from the border with Spain up to Marseille on the coast of the Mediterranean, so it's more than 300 kilometers long and about 150 kilometers wide, way bigger than the whole Bordeaux. And in southern France, a great wine may be produced just under the generic appellation Pays d'O, or just southern France. The reason for that is that blending is most common practice in this area, and they cultivate sun-soaked grapes in cooler places, Mourvedre grapes in warmer places, and thus they make stunning wine. But yeah, it's more an exception than the rule. Normally, the more precise location you have on the label, the better wine you'll have in the bottle. And finally, we got to PDO wine, which stands for Protected Designation of Origin. On the label, you can see abbreviations AOP or AOC or just AC, which basically mean the same thing. And this is the level you should look for, because 98% of quality wine in France is produced under Protected Designation of Origin. Like Bordeaux is a PDO and it is a vast region, but Saint-Emilion is also a PDO, way smaller, and consequently it produces high quality and higher priced wines. Like for instance in Alsace, if there is an appellation Alsace on the bottle, the wine should be made of 100% of the grapes varieties stated on the label. It may sound obvious, but it's not always the same. For example, in the USA, if a specific AVA is listed on the label, a minimum of only 85% of the grapes used must come from the stated appellation, and another 15% may come basically from anywhere. Other appellations put some restrictions on wine production, like maximum yields, minimum alcohol percentage, and so on. These are different for each PDO. One appellation may be more prestigious than the other, and inside big appellations there are always smaller appellations. This is how it works in the world of wine. Like Burgundy, it is an appellation. It is a rather big one, about 200 kilometers long, which doesn't make it a tiny one, right? But then inside you have Chablis, which is just one small village and some villages around it. So only wineries from this area can produce Chablis wine. So out of a vast territory over 200 kilometers long, we went down to several square kilometers in the outskirts of one particular village. And this is where the big names in French wines are found, like Saint-Emilion in Bordeaux, Sancerre in the Loire Valley, and Gevrey-Chambertin in Burgundy. These wines normally cost around $30 to $50 or euros per bottle, which is a bit above the average price range, but still they are relatively affordable and almost every person can buy them at least once in a while. The next step up is when we are narrowing down inside the borders of this little appellation like Chablis to a group of certain vineyards, or even to one particular vineyard. Let's continue with this Chablis example here. It's not only Chablis, it is Chablis Premier Cru, which means that this wine was made from grapes cultivated on the better plots of land called Premier Cru. Cru in French, it is basically a plot of land. Okay, over time people noticed that wines from certain vineyards are better than ones from the other vineyards and decided to give them special names like Premier Cru or Grand Cru in order to highlight the better quality of the fruit they give. Probably the vineyard named Premier Cru is more exposed to sun, and that is why the grapes ripen better and consequently give better quality wines with more flavors and aromas to it. And thus you don't have only the generic appellation Burgundy on the label, not only the village appellation, which is Chablis, but also Premier Cru, which states the particular level of vineyards superior to all the others. Sometimes you can see even the words single vineyard, which means that the grapes were sourced from only one particular vineyard, no more than a hectare or so. The most premium wines also may have these words on the label. And then the last step is the year. Almost any French wine has the year of harvest stated on the label, probably except for regular champagne wines, because these are the blends made of various wines from different years of harvest. But anyway, on like 90% of the wines, you'll see some kind of a date. Not the date, the year of harvest, I mean. But wines from the most premium plots of land also have Millesime sometimes. It basically means that this particular year was so good, the grapes were so good, that the producer decided to make a special line of wine which has characteristics which no other wine has. It is very common for champagne, like the best champagne ever is vintage champagne made in very fortunate years. This is the reason why some wines cost way more than the same wines from the same producer made in just different year. This is why Chateau Cheval Blanc 2011 costs around 700 euros per bottle, but the same bottle of 2010 will cost 1600 euros. More than 2 times the price. It's just all because 2010 was better for wine growing and the resulting wine is just better. Also, Robert Parker rated it 100 points, like the maximal possible qualification, and the 2011 vintage was rated only 97 points, which is also great, but not like crème de la crème, top of the top. And this difference skyrocketed the price by increasing the demand. Some people want the best wine, not the second best or whatever. And that is why the top French wines cost what they cost. Write down in the comments what is your favorite French wine, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.